Welcome to the In My Opinion Show with Ronald Barry Robinson and friends, seen on the internet 24 hours, 7 days a week. To view, please go to YouTube or Facebook and in the search field, type in capital letters RBRIMO to view our latest programs. I want to introduce my very talented co-host, Miss Jackie Williams. Welcome to the In My Opinion Show, Jackie. Mr. Henry Hatter.
Hi, Ron, and welcome, Jackie.
Thank you.
Let's talk about, is America poised to invade Syria? The Syrian war is an ongoing armed conflict in Syria between the forces loyal to the Syrian Ba'ath Party government and those seeking to oust it. The conflict began on March the 15th, 2011. In June 2013, the death toll was over 100,000, according to the United Nations reports. Half have been civilians. 30,000 citizens have become missing. 4 million Syrians have been displaced. 2 million have fled to other countries. Tens of thousands of protesters have been imprisoned. Reports of widespread torture is running rampant. The U.S. is now sending advisors and logistic equipment along with arms to the so-called rebels. I call them freedom fighters. The Syrian government, the Syrian government's freedom fighters. The next step for America will we be sending ground troops and create new fly zones on this escalating situation. I personally think, since we've already tipped our hand in Syria, just here in the last few days, President Obama has indicated that that we are supporting those freedom fighters over there. All right, Henry, what is your thoughts?
Ron, I think the American people, if you were to take if you were to take an analysis of attitudes of Americans across the board, you would find that the trend is that we're sick and tired of war. And that the war does not lead to positive ends for us. It leads us deep in debt, and it leads us a lot of new graves and nothing accomplished. And we began to, as a nation, to question the value of having war. In the old days, when we fought for something against another nation or against our, some kind of conflict within, we fought for stability and for the good of the common good of the land, of the people that we represent. But today we go out and have wars against nations, but with no gains that we can use, that we can be proud of. These last wars since Vietnam have all resulted in the same attitudes. We lost a lot of troops. We spent a lot of money, and it was more difficult for us to pay our bills at home, to Social Security, to health care, and to other commitments that we owe the American people. So I think the American people would say no, absolutely no. I think another reason why we won't go to war with Syria is that American people, at least the leadership, have resolved that anytime you're going to fight another war offshore, you will engage the United Nations, or you will engage the land that you're going out to protect or defend. They must have an equal and valuable basis of being engaged like we do. They must help us pay the way, not only in dollars, but in lives that are lost. The third reason is that we are divided in this country. We're divided regionally, we're divided politically, we're divided racially, and we are divided economically. And there's absolutely no way that we can bring ourselves together to resolve one strategy that will take us through a war and get us out of it, kind of with a collective basis or judgment. We all clean our hands and say, that's over, we're done, we'll go back to where we are. But the conflict that we have in this country right today lingers on and on and on, and it moves into the next generation. And we never resolve anything. We're at odds with each other. And I don't say going into Syria is another mistake. I would not encourage it. And if you take a linear regression of attitudes, you will find the trend is no, absolutely no by the American people.
Well, that could be true as far as the American people are concerned, because I know we're sick of wars, but the World Court and the UN has already declared the Syrian president guilty of crimes against humanity. All right, and with that being said, all right, I do see boots on the ground. Okay, it may be a limited war, but because that the United States was pounded on violence. All right, that's in the blood. Okay, unfortunately, all right, from way back in history. Okay, and fast forward every 12 years or so, America is in a conflict of some kind. Okay?
I have to agree with Mr. Hatter. I know, I'm speaking with some of my friends and talking to people, we're tired of wars, because what wars do, we need to know all that wars do. Wars cause for us to suffer economically, because when we went back and looked at all of the money that we paid for the wars in Afghanistan, we had spent so much money that we failed to spend the money here in the United States. And so we suffered so dramatically. And then we also have to deal with the results of war. When we have our troops come back and they can't find jobs and they're losing their homes. And then you ask yourself, what was the gain to do all of this again? And so we're tired, and we would rather make sure that there is going to be a gain. If there's any way that we can get around it, we would prefer to get around it versus to send ourselves back through that again. And we're bringing back our young people dead, and they're dying, and we're burying them. For what reason? Is it a good cause, or are we just making a stand? Let somebody else stand up.
Exactly. Okay, Ron, your question was, do you believe, Henry Hatter and Ms. Williams, that the United States will engage boots on the ground?
I believe.
But yet you said it was the United Nations now that has endorsed going to war, not the United States.
But they're all in that umbrella.
Yeah, but not
along
the United
with England
States.
And France and
yeah,
Germany.
I know, but the United States by itself will not engage in that.
Maybe not necessarily by itself, but that doesn't take away boots not being on the ground.
Okay.
You know what I
that
mean?
I can't say that won't happen. The United Nations says they are resolved to do something. Then we don't sacrifice all of our
Well, I would hope not.
resources.
I would hope not, and
Yeah.
that's one thing that
Yeah.
I applaud. President Obama saying that, hey, look, we're not going to get into this shit by ourselves anymore.
Right,
all right.
right.
That's
we're
the
not
right
going to be.
direction.
We're not going to be policemen of the world. Okay. Now, and sacrifice our resources. Meaning money and goods and lives. Okay. And and then you other nations that are going to benefit from this, you're sitting on the sidelines.
Watching.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've got tens of thousands of men and women that have come back in body bags. All right. And hundreds of, several 100,000 that have come back, injured. Okay. And this is intolerable. Okay. Intolerable. Okay. If this was a ideal world, you know what I mean? I would have President Barack Obama and that Syrian president, you know what I mean, battle it out just between them two. Okay? And whoever the victor is, well, if it didn't turn out right, well, you get a couple shots in the head, you know what I mean? But instead of sacrificing our men and women.
But Brian, we are cultural animals. We are social animals. We do things together. That's why societies converged. It used to be that we were all independent, but we found that we couldn't survive that way. So back in pastoral days, we learned how to cooperate with each other to go after wild game. And since that time, we always cluster and work cooperatively and conservatively to accomplish goals that we set ourselves. First of all, you have to set goals that are mutually beneficial and agreeable. And so in war, we have to include other people because that's the way we do. But we could never just have the president go by himself with a spear or a sword or a gun.
It sounded good though, didn't it?
Even if I were president, I wouldn't do that.
Well,
I say, Ron,
I think I would.
I said, Miss Williams, join me.
but I'd have the deck stacked though.
But I do believe that this is a good question, and yet we will play this out. We should come back to this issue 6 months from now and see if what we said is likely to be the case, and if the United States drop boots on the ground without going to the United Nations, we'll yell, okay? Because they know that this is how we feel.
Exactly. We're going to change gears here. Maybe you can enlighten us on this one, Jackie. The equity in pay for women is about 73 cents on the dollar compared to men's $1. How do we change this inequity?
I mean, that is just like such a question that so many people have asked. And I mean, President Obama at the convention brought up a lady that had this same issue, and he introduced a bill, and I don't even know the progress of the bill. And what it did is it went and did a research, and they found that, okay, this is found to be more often than not, and nothing has been done about it. Everybody's clapping, it was a good idea, we understand, but nothing has been done about it. And because you have all of the disclosures on, employment, you can't really talk. Some places you'll be fired if you discuss salaries to even try to see if there's a close. So, I mean, it would have to be something that the government would have to regulate, because we can't find out what you're making, because, like I said, if we talk about it, I could be fired for even bringing up salaries at work.
Yeah, and I agree. And Ron, I believe that this will work itself out over time. How, if I were to think about my mother, my wife, or my daughter, would I want them to get less than a man? By no means, no. So I believe that this will not come about immediately. Too many things to change, too many attitudes, too much regulations that don't come together on the same platform so that we can take a look at them to see what's causing the problem. I believe that women in time will overcome this and will supersede the salaries of men, because women are the most educated, best educated, consistently. More women were hired into higher positions this year, and I just read that on the internet someplace, than men were. And they're closing the gap. And men are falling behind. And they will get there because they've earned it, not because someone declared that you ought to have it. It's the same thing with minorities. We have the same gap there. But we don't talk about it, and maybe we should. But what good would it do if we don't earn it like the women are showing that they're earning. You earn that. There are no rights that say that you're unless you have criteria that says that you're equal to any person who qualifies, because they have criteria. If you don't have it, then you shouldn't ask for it.
Well, I have a suggestion to all you women out there. All right? Close up the candy store and you will get the same pay that men get. Guarantee you. Okay? Heard that on a show, and this came from a female preacher.
Women are going to get it.
You know what I mean?
They're going to earn their way.
You know what I mean? See, close up the candy store.
If you take a look at the number of graduates from high school today, compare them all over the country, all racial and socioeconomic groups, compare the ratio of girls to boys who are your valedictorians and honor students and salutatorian. Invariably, you will find them girls. And and that translates into the business industry. We think that we're driving it by legislation, but women are earning their way there. And the military. Now, I was in Fort Sill, Oklahoma last year in August. I was invited by the United States government to look at the new military of 2020. And they predicted that women will play a major role in the military by 2020. They already do. Mm-hmm. But they tend to have more enthusiasm, more rigor than boys do today. Boys don't have the loyalty to go out and do the things that boys did 50 years ago. Women now have translated that. And they will be able to take out the enemy and never see the enemy through smart technology. There right now, you have aircraft that's $5, $10, $15 million. Women are flying those aircraft, and they're taking care of them, doing what men typically did in the past. So there's growth and there's opportunity. So I know that you will achieve parity in time. If that helps you.
Yeah, it does help me a lot. It helps a lot. I'm sure that's encouraging to women. That's very encouraging.
So, look forward to pay equity.
Yes, please.
You know,
pay alimony. Pay alimony. And alimony.
Well, yeah, it comes with it. We're going to change gears here. Crash and burn. Who in the hell left the gate open? Government of the people, by the people is a myth, it seems. Many of our elected and appointed and so-called decision makers have certainly crashed mentally in their faulty decision making. This nation is besieged by liars, thieves, pedophiles, drunkards, and misfits of all races and sexes. Our democracies, our democratic way of life, as we once knew it, has crashed and burned. I love America and would do anything respectable to put it back on the path of transparency and ethical behavior and honesty. For our millions of viewers worldwide, if you have suggestions, honest solutions, please email this program at, in my opinion, rbr@att.net. For my learned co-host, what suggestions would you offer?
Go to Mr. Hatter, then I'll come back to you.
No, we want to put the nation back on to its path of honesty in government.
Exactly.
Okay.
And transparency.
Okay. That's difficult. We got to hit rock bottom first. Because if you were to go out and elect people to replace the people in Congress, they're going to be just like you because they came from the same pool. So, there's no pathway that says that this is the background standards that we have to achieve when we go to Congress. Those are all just words. They used to mean a lot in the old days, but they don't mean as much in today because it's survival of the fittest, and even. And the reason that this is so complex, Ms. Williams and Ron, is because the people that you elect to Congress, you think it's the politicians that's the difficulty. But it's the folks back home. They say, okay, Ms. Williams, you were elected as a Democrat to the United States Congress. Now, I don't want you to take any compromises. Do not work with the Republicans. Don't make any consensus. You hang on to what we as a union believe, we as Black Americans believe, and we as Democrats believe. Don't share anything. They turn to the Republicans, and the Republicans will say, don't take any compromises, or we will recall you, or we will withdraw the money so that you will fall flat on your face. So there's something in the system that won't allow us to change. We have to hit rock bottom.
I think it's something in the system that will allow us to change. It's the it seems like money is the number one thing, because if you look at the campaigns the last time before the election in November, they showed how much money was spent, and it was millions and millions and millions of dollars to give wrong messages, and it didn't matter what message it was. It was just to push your candidate.
Wasn't it over $2 billion this last election cycle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was quite a bit.
That's ridiculous.
I believe that.
I think they need to regulate that, because
They've
that
tried.
takes away well, that's a new thing that they're letting them do. They can have, what is it, the PACs?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
PACs have always been there.
But they didn't allow them to do something.
Corporations can spend as much money as they want to.
Yeah.
They used to have a cap.
Yeah.
They don't have a cap anymore.
Right. But now you see, the thing is that money is being consumed by the process. Somebody is making money, and that money is dispersed throughout the system. I don't see that as a bad thing. I see it probably not from the standpoint of other people getting benefits from the money spent, but I do see people who having the plurality of the dollars having advantages, and this is what you're talking about, the advantage.
Yeah.
Well, that's the American politics.
But you're not getting the best candidate, because if you don't have the dollars, you're not getting the best candidate. You're getting the candidate that has the most money. That's what you're getting.
I think that's everywhere.
But that's what he was saying. How do we go back to?
We have to hit rock
We
bottom.
have to stop that. I mean, it
you
needs
can't
to be.
stop it.
How come you can't?
Because it's part of the process, the political process. Like negative ads, for example, they do anything that you're talking about to demean someone that has no basis. That's the part of who we want. If you didn't have those negative ads, people wouldn't vote for you. They wouldn't vote against or for a candidate.
So you said it was always part of the process. So how do we know they wouldn't vote if we always had it?
Because it's been shown that people preferentially like negative ads.
I like to see that poll. That's just like those polls where
Yeah.
they say we polled all these people and nobody called you.
Mm-hmm.
I like
But
to
they
see
call
those
me all the
polls.
time. So.
Well, yeah, I like to give my opinion on those polls
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still will vote for the best candidate. I don't need to see all that trash on my TV.
I don't like it either. But you say, how do we change this? It's within us. We're that culture that we feed on. And we can't say something is right when we are immersed right in it or wrong. We have to hit rock bottom. We have to begin to strive with new people, with new aspirations, with new directions, and they may not look like us, or they may be a blend of all of us. But it certainly can't be in this generation. You're going to change that. We have to live with that, and we have to aspire. It doesn't mean that, Miss Williams, that you go out and run an ugly campaign and become a Kwame Kilpatrick or some of the other people who steal from governments. No matter who you are, whether you're Republican, a Democrat, black, white, woman, or male, if you're a crook, you need to go to jail.
Exactly. I agree with you. I
Right.
agree with you. I agree with you. And I wish that more crooks would get caught. You know, they're catching them, but I think they could probably do a lot better. You know, in their apprehension. Okay.
Well, I believe that the internet has made it such that nobody now has any secrets. Your stuff is on Facebook. Everything about you, we know. We know where you were born, your age, your parents' age. We know your education. We know everything about you. It's right there on Facebook.
If you go on a computer and type your name in, boom, there it is.
If you've ever stolen any money, even a sucker, and you were starving to death, just inching your way along the sidewalk to keep body and soul together,
That's right.
they have printed it.
This has been another wonderful conversation. Hopefully our viewing audience are enjoying our enlightenment. This is what we try to do on the In My Opinion shows, to enlighten our viewing public. I want to thank my excellent technical staff, my very informed co-hosts, Ms. Jackie Williams and Mr. Henry Hatter.
Jackie.
This is Ronald Barry Robinson and friends saying for the In My Opinion show, stay focused.